Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. A next edition of Ljubljana Talks here from Conventa 2024. And with Gorazd, we have another great guest today, Ivo Franschitz. Thank you very much for coming to Ljubljana and joining us and, being just such a part of Conventa as a whole.
Thank you very much for having me again. And as I said to Gorazd and to you, Jan, I mean, Ljubljana became my second home, not only because I'm Styrian by birth, and accordingly it's very close and we feel very similar and very common with many things you do and live here. And we have been having the opportunity to work together in several projects, so it's always a pleasure to be here.
The question that I have for you, this year you had a very special role with Conventa. Conventa namely has been, creating all these side projects and concepts and all that, and we have Conventa Crossover that is like a younger sister, and we have, Ljubljana Talks, which is like a cousin in some sorts, and we have, the trend bars and all these experiments that are kind of living. But this year, another such project started, the Conventa Crossroads, which is a political forum, which was very impactful, and you were moderating it. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, very exciting, and is that the opportunity why I always love to come back is because there are new ideas, constantly growing new ideas. Again, as we heard it before in another episode, and if I may so, if anybody who is watching the Ljubljana Talks and really want to get a sense for and the passion who drives our industry, I call it business events industry, please watch the episode with Tatjana Radovic. Because it's true, you can learn so much about it and hear so much about it, what really makes a difference in our industry. So having said that, we came up with the idea we talked about already before and said, there would be a good thing, especially now with the changing environment, with the next generation. I feel very proud and happy to see the next generation, the future generation sitting here in the live audience. You're the one who create the future. So we said it is really time to reconnect with not only our industry as such, or sector actually, because I like to define our business events industry as a sector of competence and skills. We are not an industry per se where we're producing something, but we're enabling a lot of other industries, a lot of other economies to do what they need to do best. Having said that, we said it's time for that, to reconnect and look a little bit beyond our own bubble. And the whole purpose and idea of this new Conventa Crossroads is to do exactly that. And making listeners and speaking partners, as we call it, become participants in our industry. And I think because I like to always say, participation is needed for good, meaningful conversations. So this whole forum is called Decision Makers Forum. We started on Tuesday as a first approach towards the political side, on national, on local, on regional level, to restart a conversation, but not by telling them, who we are and what we're good for and how great we are, but by turning the table and say, what can we do to help you in your role, in your job? And that's the idea, to continue that, just to finish this off, every year to approach and connect to different speaking partners outside of an industry. The education, we have here again, students of an education system. How can our sector be more partner in creating those contents and those opportunities for you to grow into our sector? The good thing is you all have an interest in it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be where you are now. We all hope that you grow into it to really become passionate about it. And these are the elements. And then we're talking about startup companies. We're talking about all different aspects in a new, I don't want to say, scenery of life, but in general to have that possibility to reconnect.
I know Gorazd has a question already lined up for you, but I just want to make a comment because we have this wonderful audience from Turistica. So it is what you just said is such a great application in a live scenario to what it means that tourism is not a science, but it is an applicative science. It cannot stand on its own. It needs to connect with others. And I think this is the beautiful thing about our industry, because when we speak about the meetings industry, it is much more than just the hotel and the Congress Center. There are so many things, the AV person that sets it all up, the camera, there's the light, the air condition. There's a whole science behind it, and I think it is a great part to put also politics into the mix. Sorry, Gorazd.
Well, let me start with the research at ELCOM research, which you just published actually a few days ago. Can you share some highlights of the research with us?
From the Livecom Alliance.
Yeah.
I mean, interesting enough, obviously, as Tatjana was talking about, it's about the passion. And if you have passion, you kind of sometimes too often say yes and no. That means you do a lot of things where you really feel like you can contribute or you can create things. And this, again, is something unique, I think, to our sector. So the Livecom Alliance is a European platform representing or combining national event associations. Germany, Italy, Belgium, Holland, Spain, Austria, and so forth. And every year they kind of produce study, a survey, what is the state of our, quote, industry sector. And the reason came out just now, the last year was the last year of survey, 2023. And it showed actually also pure by facts and figures that our sector is incredibly resilient. 2019 and 2020 were the survey years before, and now with 2023, we are almost back on an economical scale than before. We created again more job opportunities. As you all know, currently with the change and of all generations, the baby boomers, which I'm one of them, gonna be out soon. I mean, we are really see that our sector offers so much opportunity and the growth is there. And one other element I want to mention is when we combine all these national associations, they obviously do their own things in Germany and France and so forth. And there was a very interesting study in the Holland, Netherlands, within the corporate C-suites, CEOs, CMOs, chief marketing officers. And they said, what about our industry? What about business events? What about live communication? How important is that going to be the next years to come? And about 75% of all said that's one of our key elements of our marketing and live communication efforts. So purely as a sector to grow in, as a business, as a person, as your profession, it's incredible potential there are. And this is actually what we want to do also through the Crossroads to convey the message.
You are very, very active. I have to say, you are very active, and you are a business owner. And with your agency, not only that you're a member of 27 Names, you are also active in ICA and other associations. But could you tell us, as a business owner working in our industry, how do you see being a business owner? How do you perceive yourself? Do you see that you would have changed perhaps anything? And I want to touch on the 27 Names and being a part of that, because I think the audience would like to hear about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to be as short as possible. How much time do we have? No, but short as possible. I mean, from a business perspective, obviously, that's what drives my daily life, professional life. I have also still a private one, thank God. What again made me 26 years ago to open up my own company was exactly all these elements we heard before in the other Ljubljana talks from Tatjana, as well as what I try to convey is something you love. And thinking about the company itself, we transformed, we evolved, because when we started, it was purely very much of an industry, a sector of doers. Meaning, you applied, you did your things, what you mentioned, you bring things together, you bring people together, you create opportunities to meet. And over the time and years, I see we are more becoming part of the live communication business. And that's something what I really see and love. And that was driving me to understand that all these elements we are part of, and I said at the beginning, we are enablers, is at the end, if we all start to think that we are not in a infrastructure, hospitality, logistic business, but if we are in the live communication business, because that's what we do, any meeting, any event we creates live communication moments. For companies, for associations, for anybody who uses this tool set. And that was for me, my company itself, we renamed us, we went 2014, a year of completely change, of classical change management. We came out of it differently, I think stronger, and again, more passionate. So that is what I think is from a business perspective. And that ties into my desire, my unending curiosity. And it's the only thing I think I haven't lost from my childhood. I lost a lot of things, but curiosity is the driver, and that brought me into the 27 Names world, which is an European network of agencies of different kinds, all working and living in the live communication industry. So for all of you here and watching who are interested in our industry, think a little bit beyond, dare to think more than just being an important part in whatever sector or part of our industry you work. You are part of something bigger because we are creating live communication moments. And regardless in what area, without them, and the survey before confirmed it, is essential. So you can really be proud of being in something which creates more than hotel nights and bed nights and meal tickets and whatever it is important, the direct economy. So I'm, as I said, passionate about it. So this is something which is really great. So that drives me.
Beautiful.
Ivo, I know that you like the why question. You know, I need to start with that. But why we need meetings, actually? How can you answer to somebody? Why we need to meet? Actually, we have all the tools available. Artificial intelligence is here. Is it necessary that we meet, or why, actually?
The why question of why we need to meet or why we need to gather in whatever event format, whether it's the MICE definition or whatever it is, I think it's a uniqueness we have in our DNA. We are a species who by nature always gathers. I mean, I'm not going into history and whatever of mankind.
History.
History. Yeah. So, but what we see, and I always like to refer to as something which I think very easy, simple but smart, said by two Nordic thinkers, futurists, who said the only industry sector who enables to create wild knowledge is us. When we meet, when we create the opportunities, the platforms to communicate live with each other. And wild knowledge stands for the result, the automatic result if people come together. All of us here have your own backpack of knowledge, of experience, of education. If you stay where you are and even connect to all the wonderful virtual tools nowadays and channels we have, that last element of exchanging, of talking to each other, learning from each other, is uniquely happening only when we come together. And that what comes out of it is so-called wild knowledge. The association world has understood that that is something why they need to have every year, or at least in a certain regular interval, these live encounters. Corporate world, for a different purpose, because they want that we love their brands. Brand love, brand communities. And this is exactly what it is. So I think the why question is something unique. It's the wild knowledge we create, and we only can create it together when we come together.
I have another why. Namely, we know that, well, you said it, you come from Austria, and we know that the capital of Austria is Vienna. And it is not only a capital of Austria, but it is also in so many ways the capital of meetings industry. So why is Vienna the capital of the meetings industry?
I think probably there are many, many reasons, many, many perspectives or point of views to look at it. And I think Vienna has grown, and it took them a long time. It didn't happen overnight, and I think nothing happens overnight in our industry, and that's what you said before. You have to be not only passionate about it, you have to be also patient. And Vienna simply understood from the beginning on, many, many years back, that that is something we want to actively invest and involve. And over many, many years, for many, many reasons, Vienna geographical location helped a lot to become that meeting point, that event gathering location, geographically, to many industries. So it was a convenient thing to do. And I think that was basically the advantage. I think every destination, whether small or big, has that ingredients, the authenticity. And that's what you need to drive. And I think Vienna understood that from the beginning. We do our own thing, you know. It's like many now talk about, we want to be like Vienna and we have to copy and paste. No, don't. We don't want the second Vienna. We want the first Ljubljana or Zagreb or Belgrade or what it is. Because this is what actually Vienna did right and did early enough and have the patience for it to build that reputation and brand. I think it's not a recipe which is complicated. But you need to do it on your own. You cannot simply say, okay, I want to be the second. Try to be the first. And so that's what Vienna, I think, more or less was the main reason why Vienna has become what it is now.
Ivo, if the sky is the limit, what kind of event you would like to organize?
Good question. I honestly say there's not one event because events again are live communication platforms, and you have the spectrum. And Tatjana in the former Ljubljana Docs mentioned it also, because every aspect, every sector, every industry, every organization has its own needs and its own reasons why to do these live communication gatherings. So obviously some of them are more shiny, and the sky is the limit, which is not always the budget, it's not always the resources. I think it's the ideas, is the engagement, is feeling that people are participating and not being only delegates and attendees. These kind of events I would like to see more and more often in a framework, but to really say this is it. I mean, I had the opportunity as an agency many years back in 2006 to be both involved in the FIFA World Cup in Germany and in the Winter Olympic Games in Torino. Of course, you're there like, wow, mind-blowing. A world sports event of that dimension. Of course, it leaves you with a certain satisfaction and pleasure, but that doesn't mean every event has to be like that. So I think it's not about scope and scale. It's about content. It's about the opportunities you create, and that could be the next event.
Actually, you touched on several things. So my initial question, I'm going to scrap that one, and I will go to something that you just said. And I think it's a conversation that we've been having within the industry. So sport events, are they a part of the meetings industry? I personally think they are. And how do you perceive the combination of, let's say, organizing the difference or perhaps similarities between organizing a sporting event or perhaps a congress or a conference?
Again, we're back to definitions, as we all know, and this is one of our greatest weaknesses our sector has. We have been now for many years, and Tatjana will for sure agree on that, trying to find the definition for ourselves. Who are we actually? And as I said before, I provided you with my perspective. And so the question is, what is an event and so forth, in which areas? I think sport events are, in my definition set, on an equal bar with business events, on an equal bar with culture events, because that's how we define the purpose. And that makes a difference towards also a certain, we are a second cousin of tourism, no doubt about it. But I always say when people say, yeah, but it's just tourism. I said, no, just ask the question why. What's the purpose of a touristic event or a touristic service and product, and what is the purpose of an event? So coming what you said, sport events are obviously produced for the broader public. It's a B2C event, as we call it in our wonderful alphabet soup, business to consumer, versus most of the business events are business to business. So there's a slight difference in purposes, but of course I agree in the overall scope of defining live communication moments, they part of the events universe, so to speak. Sport events are obviously to a certain extent broader, bigger, more visible, because you have many, many times business events who are internal. I mean, there are events around on the globe which by numbers, sheer numbers is amazing, but you never hear about it because obviously it's an internal business-to-business event. So
They want to be invisible. They want to be invisible.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes it is not their purpose to be not seen, but to be recognized as such. So I think sport events has an incredible, important role to play also in the development of destinations. If you go back the last 10, 15 years and you look at these up-and-coming destinations, you can be sure you find in their journey one or two of these sport events being held in a destination to put the spotlight on. I mentioned 2006 Germany and then Italy. More recently, also going back, is looking into the new Europe as we have defined it. You consider Azerbaijan and Baku. They very smartly, I mean, obviously also invested time and money into the Eurovision Song Contest, into the Formula One, into football, and so forth and so forth. It's a good tool. So I think absolutely at the end, it's part of us.
Great. The last one from me, Ivo. Well, I'm a believer that we need to organize events in a more sustainable way. But do we have time for small steps, or we need to do big steps? This is my question to you.
It's not either or, it's both. And that's another thing, again, seeing here also a lot of students in the room and here in the live audience. And that's another element where we can be drivers of change. We can be the initiator. Think about, because we are these enablers. So if we are starting to behave differently, it automatically means the whole environment and the whole scope and scale of what we do starts to become differently. So I'm a firm believer it's not either or, it's both. And if I may say, and I always like to play around with words, and I'm very strong on definitions because words are our mean of communication. And then we'll come back to it and trying to find this understanding to each other. Sustainability is obviously a topic which is forefront and important, and our quote sector has to be very aware of it, has to get better. I agree with whatever you said before, and we have a lot of talks together. And that's one step of it. But on the other hand, we should be also proud, because in sustainability, there's the word ability. And again, our industry, if you look at, again, now talking about the big goals, the SDGs, I think our sector can be influential, a driver in the change, not because we change our behavior, but we change other things. We defined 5 of the 17 SDGs, where I think our industry, and then we'll come back to, we're talking to the speaking partners and the political side, we can be there really the driver and being the enabler of the sustainability part.
I guess it's time for a couple of those quick questions that we always put. So,
am I allowed to say also neither? Or I have to choose? Okay, good. Just checking.
You know, as you said, the language is a flexible thing, so you will communicate to us whatever you want. But let me start, because you come from, so close to Ljubljana, yet so far, in a way. Mountains or the sea?
I have to say the sea.
Classical music or rock and roll?
Both.
Okay.
Day or night?
Day.
Train or car?
Car if it's electric.
Ivo, thanks for being our guest. Is there any question from the audience? Anybody wants to ask something?
Or an overflow of information.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to Ljubljana Talks and listening to us. And thank you, Ivo, for taking your time. And thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much,
still
guys.
Probably remember how we say at the end, power to the meetings.